Well, I'm glamping at Willow Springs. Got a shepherd's hut for 2 nights up here. Absolutely beautiful. Haven't done a camping video for a long time, so I thought I'd do a glamping one that you often won't see me do, but must be getting old. Beautiful location. So yeah, get the fire pit going later. I'll show you around the old shepherd's hut. Of course, this is Willow Springs up in South Wales. It's fantastic up in the mountains. The Glencorrach mountain range it's known as. Beautiful. A lot of bike trails and a lot of wild edibles around here as well. So thanks for joining me on this one. Hope you enjoy the video, and yeah, let's get to it. Lots to do. Yeah, so this was where we were staying for kind of 2 nights. For anyone who's interested in shepherd's huts, these are kind of things. So when you're booking one, you kind of know what's inside. This particular one's kind of a luxury one, really. A nice double bed in here. Because of the way the video is, there is stacks of room in here. It's not all up close. Log burning stove, which is lovely. It just warms this place up, so through the winter it's really going to extend, you know, your camping trips, if you like, or your get outside and, you know, have a break trip, really, because the log burning stove, you've got wet clothes, they just dry in here instantly, which is great. You know, kind of a kettle for a cup of tea whenever you want, so you haven't got to go around the back. On this particular shepherd's hut, around the back there's a small shed and cooking facilities in there. Nice sofa bed, that does pull out for another bed, but ideally this is for 2 people. I would check the website to see what's available, you know, if this kind of setup would suit your style of needs in camping. Or glamping, should I say. I mean, this is by far not camping. This is sheer luxury compared to what I'm normally used to be honest with you. I'm kind of lost. The wife cleaned up the place after we'd finished with it. I was kind of lost. I normally pack all the tent and stuff away, so I was walking around like a lost sheep this morning. Solar panel in here. The solar panel's on the side, and you've got battery USB, so you've got a radio there. It does work well, the radio, and it's quite good around here for the reception. The USB for charging items and all that, so that, you know, for people that want their phones charged, you've got a facility there to be able to do that. Comes with a few board games. In one of these you'll have to check, so if you've got a youngster you're bringing, you would have to check that they've come with a few board games. It's more like get out and do something, isn't it? These are, you know, like I say, really nice. Of course, a lot of them now bring your own bedding. So we'll probably do a bit of a checklist to give you guys and girls a help and some handy tips on this video. One of the questions that's often asked is how do you start the fire pit, which we'll go out and I'll show you some tips and tricks. Lovely tables in here for your meals, all 4 stools, lovely. But we'll do some tips and tricks on how to get your fire pit going. Apparently it's one of the most asked questions. So we'll go out and do that, and I'll try and put it on the end of the video on some of the tips and tricks on how to get your fire pit going. And obviously these are really easy to start. Some split wood, you know, kind of a fire lighter straight in there, or you can do it the natural way, which we'll show you outside with kind of feather sticking and playing around with some wood. Yeah, nice. So yeah, that's inside a shepherd's hut. For anyone who's looked on the website and thought, oh, I don't know if I fancy that, I know there's a few people like that. That's what they look like, and they are literally lovely. So yeah, we'll get outside and try and do the tips and tricks of fire pit, and I'll give you some tips on what to pack for your stay if you're planning to do this kind of glamping. Be back right with you. Yeah, so this is going to be my tips and tricks on lighting your fire pit whilst you're out on your camping expeditions, and this is particularly good in the winter time. Now you can obviously use fire lighters, but you will still need to process down your firewood, especially if you buy them in a bag or a net, which is often sold at campsites along, with a fire pit hire, and you may get a small hatchet or an axe, but it's always worth taking your own just in case they don't offer that opportunity to have a hatchet. The wood normally comes quite large, so you'll need to split it down, and I'll show you some of that in a minute, splitting down some wood. The axe is there, and it can be quite a harsh looking tool, very dangerous tool, and it's one of the tools that out in the field, especially if we're wild camping, let alone on a campsite, we take great care in use, because unfortunately this edge holds no prisoners. If you've got your fingers in the way, you will lose a digit if you don't know how to use one of these tools. And the axe is a great tool. It's one of the oldest tools known to man, really. And as long as we use it in a very bold, fashionable manner, and we're not scared of it, it's actually a safe tool to use. The dangers with an axe, and the shorter the axe, this is a small forest axe, but obviously at a campsite you may get a small hatchet. The danger of them, the smaller the axe, the more dangerous they are, because you've got more chance of swinging down and hitting yourself in your legs or in your body if you take the wrong stance with it. And there's plenty of videos out there on axe safety and how to use an axe very safely, and I would suggest before you come to a campsite, knowing that you're going to have a fire pit, you may want to check out one of them videos on how to use this tool. And like I say, it doesn't take no prisoners, but certainly don't be scared of it, and it's pretty well much a tool anyone can use. And just remember, whatever you're chopping, have your hands nowhere near that. You use what we call a chicken stick, and you'll see me demonstrate that in the video in a minute, where I'm using a chicken stick on some of the wood that I'm trying to split, some of the finer stuff. That's one of the main tools that you're going to need. The other tool, of course, will be some kind of knife, and a knife's handy for processing down finer woods. We'll look at the knife itself. It's a great tool to have, and you don't need an expensive knife, you don't need anything like this. Something with a Scandinavian grind always works well. And for the camper, the family camper, I suggest you wouldn't go and buy something as expensive as this. Maybe just a Mora. You can get them on Amazon for £10–12. They'll do exactly the same thing as this knife will. But we look for something with a Scandinavian grind on it, and it's a good grind for woodwork. And if you buy a Mora and you've got that Scandi grind, it opens the whole avenue up for you to do some bushcraft tasks around your camp or shepherd's hut, whatever whatever you're staying in that night. But the knife itself, just remember there are some cutting techniques to use with the knife, and if you use it with the right cutting techniques, it's a very good tool to have. But if you're kind of not gripping it right, you're not handling the knife right, then you'll tend to find you get aching arms, and a bit of whittling at the camp can be a real nightmare. So that tool there is another main tool that you're going to need. Like I say, don't go out buying expensive knives unless you take your camping serious. It's worth getting yourself a good tool. The more a range of bushcraft knives will do equally as good a job as that. So there's a couple of the tools. There is another one that we use, is a folding saw. These come in quite handy once again on Amazon. They're about 10, 15, 20 pounds if you get them. I mean, I've seen them 15 pounds if you get them in the sale. Laplanders, you pretty well much can't go wrong with one of them. They're probably used by every, or been used and carried by probably every outdoorsman there is. It's a very safe tool to use, a very energy efficient tool to use. And if you've got the younger kids, they love sawing up a bit of wood at the campsite. So just under a bit of supervision, it's, you know, they can have a little go, and they feel part of the whole process of the fire pit. And the fire pit's a great idea around the campsite because it can really bring an atmosphere to the family. You know, the mum, dad, and a couple of kids or whatever, and it brings that atmosphere of really camping. It gives you that whole experience, I think. And obviously then you can cook and boil water, and the fire pit's just a great asset. And it's great that UK campsites now recognise that and are allowing it a lot more at their facilities. But like I say, a saw like that's good for a bit of fun, and the kids love it, you know, just sawing up a bit of wood. Very safe tool to use. And once again, as long as you keep an eye on them, or yourself, just don't be cutting your fingers off. Best way of doing it for kids is to get them to hold it like that and then saw, and stick a foot on whatever they're sawing and let them go for it. Just make sure they don't saw your foot off. So we'll look at a few more of these tools in depth and the best way of using them. And getting the fire pit going, we need to process down that wood, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to split a bit of wood with the axe, and then from there we'll show you the next process. And there's a few ways of lighting your fire. Like I say, one would be from fire lighters. Another one is the famous Ferrocene rod or fire match that pretty well much every outdoor retailer sells now, every camping shop. There's a lot of people don't know how to use them, so we'll go through that, and we'll go through feather sticking techniques for extremely cold and wet weather. So that's it. Well, watch me split down some wood, eh? Yeah, so you can see that in that video there I use this tool in a very bold manner, you know, and I'm very confident with it. You can do some very precise hits on wood. A lot of this wood we're using is quite knotty, it's kiln dried. It's full of knots. You can see that by the pitting. It's not ideal for splitting really, but at campsite you've got to make do with what you've got. So yeah, on to the next tool, our knife, because although we've got that now, it's too massy to take a spark from our ferrocerium rod, and we'll cover that now on how we're going to process this down using our knife and then using our metal match ferrocerium rod, whatever you want to call it. Probably every camper's been and bought one and just don't know how to use it properly. But if I chuck a spark on this now, it'll do nothing. Like I say, it needs to be processed down. I need more mass of an area for it to take a spark. So we'll reset the camera up and we'll get our knife ready and we'll process it down a little bit more. So understanding our ferrocerium rod, you know, this is a ferrocerium rod. They come in different shapes and sizes. If I show you this, this is a bigger one, you know, a custom made one. This is a beautiful ferrocerium rod, a lot harder ferro, but great for wet weather conditions. It's one of my favourite ferrocerium rods for winter camping. You can see the size difference. This is like the army size kind of model. Ray Mears Bushcraft, I got that one. It's a fantastic ferrocerium rod. And this one is a custom made from Scott, Mr. Scooty. Makes probably some of the best and the finest ferrocerium rods out there. You can use the back edge of your knife. Sometimes these will come with a scraper. You can use the very back edge of your knife, as long as your knife's round off for a 90 degree. You can see that I get these cool sparks, very hot. And once again, we can do that with the smaller one. But to be very delicate on using one of these, I hold my ferrocerium rod in my hand like this, and I just use the tip of my knife, and I can be very, very precise. I can throw a shower of sparks, very hot sparks, exactly where I need them to be. And that's really as simple as it is of using a ferrocerium rod. I see so many people struggle at literally using the tip of the knife, the very tip of the knife. You can get these very hot sparks. Or you can use the whole of your knife, the whole of the rod, to show a shower of sparks over a more tinder that's, you know, cotton wool, something like that. Cotton wool work where in Vaseline works really, really well, and that'll just literally be a, and away it goes. You can light fire lighters with these as well. Just process them down a little bit. I normally just pack them down and then just put a spark on them and they're light. So on to processing our wood down to accept that spark using our knife and our tool. We've got a block, we don't want to be cutting into the ground. We're going to just make a few feather sticks, and 3 to 5 is ideal. Normally if you're out wild camping, your feather sticks will be quite a long stick, dead wood, but we've only got this processed wood, so we're going to feather stick some of this off just to give us a mat to be able to take a spark. So to create a feather stick, all we do is simply find a good nice bit of wood, really. Something, we don't want too many knots in it, we don't want a lot of knots, we want nice edges on it. Something like this would do. Now some of these curls will come off when I'm doing this, and I make sure that my body is well clear of my knife, because I don't want to be cutting towards myself. And I literally come down the wood, and I hold the wood in a very supportive way, and I just try and create a flat surface. These curls that are falling off, don't worry about them at the moment, they will come off. And you can see that I'm now processing this wood down. Once I get this nice flat surface, we can start then feather sticking, which is what we're doing now. And you've probably seen this on the TV. It's used on a lot of the survival shows, party tricks. It's used in places like Canada, North America, that way. It's used there a hell of a lot in the pine forest. It's a very reliable way of getting a fire going, especially with a resinly filled wood. And I just process the wood down, giving me a feather stick. I repeat that process, I keep going around because it's this what I want to be able to take a spark. So I just keep going, keep going, keep going. And feather sticking is that easy. That's just one method of getting your fire pit going. You could of course use a match, save all the trouble and hassle, or a lighter. But when you're out camping, you've got all the time in the world to improve your skills and your asset. And I think it's always fun to try different methods, especially when you've got time or you're on holiday or on vacation. You can try all different stuff. One of my favourite methods is the flint and steel, and it's a very traditional method of using it. There's finding tinder bundles this time of the year. It's very difficult. Everything's so wet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll speak to you all on the next one. And this was of course glamping at Willow Springs. I'll leave some links. It's a great location for you and the family to come up and enjoy. I'm going to enjoy my bovril, which I chucked my billy can right on the fire. And I'll speak to you all on the next one. Something about a campfire. I just can't take my eyes off it. I'll speak to you on the next one.